welcome to Master Guitar, where we will learn how to master guitar on 2600 Tuesday. So recently I've been doing a deep dive, not so much a deep dive, I call it the up and running series, on how to quickly get up and running on your synthesizer. So I've done one on the Odyssey, and I did one on the Poly D Mini Moog. The DeepMind is easy, you just plug it in and, well, play it. So now let's talk about the 2600, because so far I've done a couple of these where I've said, if you had to buy one synth, what would it be? Well, bottom line, I think, you know, at the price these things are at, you know, definitely the 2600 is the one you should be buying. If you're going to be buying one, you should be buying the 2600. And here's all the reasons why it's 2600. And remember, the 2600 used to cost, back in the 1970s, $2,600. That was back in the days when a car was $3,995 new. So you are literally talking, this thing was about $20,000 of today's money. So it was a lot of money to get one of these. And the fact you can get one of these and get up and running right away on it is just downright astounding. So let me just make sure this thing's in tune. I turned it on a little while ago. Okay, so let's see, what do we got for, I need to get this one up a little higher. Alright, gonna turn VCO 1 up, good, down. I need to come up a little bit. I got everything set down to 0. The only thing I've got up right now is VCO 3. Okay, so let's talk first about the sounds of it. When you've got everything down, you have no sounds. So that's pretty obvious. So one of the first things you want to look for over here is you want to, and this is something that I told you all, I got this from another channel where he said you take the output of your AR and plug that into the ADSR, and basically that's how your Odyssey is set up automatically. That's how it's patched. You want to make sure you've got your VCF up. You can have your ring mod all the way down, but you need to have your AR and ADSR all the way up. Because if I put this up, turn the VCF down, you have nothing. If I turn the ADR down, all you hear is the ADSR. If I turn both of those down, you hear nothing. So I recommend turn your VCF all the way up, your AR all the way up, and your ADSR all the way up. Now you got volume. So there's oscillator 1. This is the default sound. They tell me the default on this one is the saw wave, but I don't know. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I guess it is. So this is your square wave, or on here it's called pulse. This is VCO 2, and then VCO 3 is the same. Now, one of the things I did with this is I've got VCO 1 is on, VCO 2 is on, and I notch it down just a little bit to give it a little bit of fullness. And then I notch VCO 3 up just a touch, and now it's got somewhat of a fuller tone. Alright, so it's pretty simple. You take your saw wave on VCO 1 and plug that in to VCO 1 here. Now I've got the saw wave engaged just to make sure. So let's take the saw wave on 2, and again we're going to plug that into VCO 2 because nothing's happened yet. Okay, now the sound has changed a little bit. So let's take another chord. We're going to put the saw on. And we're going to have VCO 3. you got the square wave going, so I'm going to plug the saw wave back in so you can hear it. And again there too. I don't know, it sounds more like this one's set for square wave and these are set for saw, but everyone says it's the other way around. So this is all you need to get up and running with it. Get an Arturia key step, make sure you've got it set to the appropriate channel. I put it for channel 1. You have dip switches on the back of this that you can set for dip switch setting 1, and then you just plug in your, it goes right here. Let me lift this up a little bit. See where my finger is? That's where the cord is, right there. That's where you put your MIDI in. That's it. This is all you need to get up and running. Now this is a stereo output amp device. I would really recommend, if you have the channels, also have, and the cords, which I don't have, also have your right output here plugged into a different channel. You can pan one on your sound system hard left, once on the sound system hard right. Okay, so let's talk about a couple of different ways we can get any kind of rhythmic sound in here. So one of them would be to take, you can do your sample and hold out, and you can go into VCO 3 right here, kick your volume up on that. You can begin to patch with this and see how that works with you. Now what you'll do from here is you got to get your level of your noise generator. And I usually put this on pink noise. What I'm doing here is I'm taking my initial filter frequency and moving that back and forth. Your rate down here controls how fast it goes. You can also get your ring mod up and go over here to your volume and bring up your ring mod. That's not a sound I really use in conjunction a lot, is the ring mod and that. Alright, so let's talk about rhythmic. Let's go ahead and take this and we're going to move that over here, kick that down. Your sample and hold out is where this is plugged in. I'm leaving this the same. We're going to go over here to my LFO, and I'm going to take this one here, which is the LFO square wave. Plug that in there. Now I got my volume. Now you can hear I've kind of got a kind of Doctor Who-ish, isn't it? So again, I'm just playing with my initial frequency filter. Now if you want something that's just straight ahead rock, helps if I play the right notes. So it's kind of up to you what kind of sound are you looking for. You can get an awful lot of sounds out of the 2600. This is just jumped in, getting it running. The sounds I've got is I've got nothing special on. It's audio, keyboard on all three. The sync is off on both. It's just saw waves in. So let's say I wanted to take my triangle waves. I want to get a pure triangle tone, so we got to drop that because I don't have triangle over here. So now we have two oscillators for triangle. Got to plug these in. And now I'm going to unplug the LFO because I don't want the stuttery effects. Now one of the things I talked about before is my keyboard CV, the ADSR control, and my VCO2 over here is kind of a tone control. If you think about it that way. So my filter is trying to kick in, and my ADSR is trying to kick in, which is why it's not a smooth sound. So let's go for a sine wave. Now, as you can see, the pulse width really doesn't change on this. It'll only change on when I have it on the square wave, which is called pulse on the C. Now for this one, you can bring your ring mod in. Now I don't mind having the So let's go over to the pulse now. because of the experimental nature of this, you start thinking, what if I take this and I put this into my LFO? I could take, let's see. How would I do this, I wonder? Take this. So what I'm trying to do there is I'm trying to trigger my pulse width here. See, it's not really changing now. It's just staying there, and you kind of hear it almost like a phase shifter. Now you can add some try to get some sound in there too, so we can get some light. We can get a little of my noise in there. Or we could just take the LFO and put it right here. And now we're going to take this and we're going to plug it into the noise and see what happens there. Now, because the like I said, the 2600 is made for kind of jumping in there and playing around with stuff. So let's put the oscillator sync on. I gotta get this thing back tuned in, so let's get back to a C. Okay, so last but not least, let's play with the ring mod. Okay, this is the big 2600 sound. Is to kick in that ring mod, to have all three of your oscillators, tune one out just a little bit. all 3 oscillators going, and it's kind of loud. All right, so. Okay, so there you go. It's not a deep dive. A deep dive on this thing could take, like I said, hours. Hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of learning how to play with all this, playing with the filter. I haven't even touched the ADSR. So if you've never used ADSR, the more attack you get, the more of a wah it fades in. Hear that? There you go, all the way up. So I like it to sound like a synth. I like it to have a little bit of a you know, up and down, so you hear it fade in, wow, and the more filter I add to it, the more you hear it. Try not to wake everyone up. It's 4 in the morning. Good basic introduction to the 2600. And all you got to do is just start playing with it to find out what it does. You can't break it. Well, I mean, you could, but it would, just by taking these and plugging these in, nothing should break. It should work fine. Just remember, plug 1 patch cable from here to here. You just need a pack of 10 patch cables. You should be good to go. The more you experiment with it, the more you find things you can do with it, like my sample and hold thing I showed you really quickly. And then by using your oscillator sync, which kind of messes up your tuning, you can get those really bizarre 2600 screechy tones that the Odyssey does, you know, just as well. So the only big difference here is that you got the 2600 has 3 oscillators, as opposed to the Odyssey. Bring this thing over here. But of course it's out of tune, so let's see. So that's the difference, is this only has 2 oscillators, the 2600 has 3. The Odyssey, you're up and running, but you lose the ability to have tons and tons and tons of patching, but you can get the sounds very quickly. It takes a little bit, maybe a second or 2 longer with the 2600, as you saw, and when things go wrong, you can spend a little bit of time trying to track it down on this, and it's almost better to just zero everything all the way out and start all over again, because when you've got 96 patch points and I don't know how many sliders and etc. on this thing, you know, when things go wrong, you can go out of your mind. So if this was your only synth and you were trying to, you know, if you only had 1 synth to buy and it was going to be the 2600, I would spend hours a day working with this, going from one patch setting to another, to another, to another, so you remember, okay, I have to watch which setting I've got this in. You know, the keyboard repeat, or whether I've got it in sync on or off. Like I said, I can't hear the difference between the 4072 or the 4012 filter, and then you got your, and then the settings on your filter. I mean, just even with using the 2600 patch book, the difference between that and that is pretty pronounced. But I mean, the 2600 is meant to be played too much. Okay, so the 2600 is meant to be played by constantly adjusting it and playing it. Not that I mean you have to keep changing your patch settings, but just kind of like how I do with the Odyssey, where I'm constantly grabbing these three and playing with them, or going up to my filter and playing with them. I find I play with the filter on the 2600 a lot more than I do the Odyssey. With the Odyssey, I'm just working these three controls. But I just touch the tuning and you can hear how big the sound suddenly gets. Okay, so hopefully this was a good explanation for you. It's just an up and running series. It's not meant to be the deep dive. Like I said, the deep dive on this could take many hours. And what I was running to on the channel when I first got this was I had a lot of people coming here who already knew how to get sounds out of a 2600, and I had to explain to a couple of them, you know, I understand what you're saying. You're looking for new patch settings, you're looking for new settings, you're looking for new ideas. What I am doing is I am just trying to show people who have never played a synth before how to play. Once I said that, they all were like, okay, I get where you're coming from, and I didn't have any more questions on it. You know, I'd had someone come on and say, you really need to try getting the 2600 patch book. I have the 2600 patch book, I just haven't played with it. I had this thing for I don't know how many months before I got the DeepMind 12, and then just 2 months after I got the DeepMind 12, I've got the Poly D, the Odyssey, the K2. The K2 is a beast. Oh my goodness, it's a beast. And I've still got my VC340 coming, which my vocoder and string ensemble, and that thing is going to be, you know, amazing. That's going to be a major thing for me. So between all of this, I am all set for keyboards. Although, you know, if I had unlimited funds and unlimited space, because seriously, one of the problems I got here is that, as you can see, I'm kind of jammed up on space here. I don't have a whole lot of room to put all that many more keyboards. And this is one of the problems we got. I've been thinking about ways to how to get this off of this table, because I like this table. I don't like using it for this. The table's a little bit too flat, you know, stylish. Again, if you had to choose one synth, I'm on record as saying 1,000 times, make it to 2600. If you can get 2 2600 and Poly D, if you can get 3 2600 Poly D and Odyssey, if you can get 4, get the DeepMind 12, and if you can get 5, get the K2 also. And if you can get 6, get the VC340. If I can get room for more, I would get the Prophet when it comes out, and I would most certainly get the OBXA, or the UBXA is what Uli Behringer is going to call it, or Behringer I think it's pronounced in Europe. So anyway, I've babbled long enough. It is now 4 in the morning, and I need to go spend some time with my cat because he is throwing a temper tantrum. I'm not out there with him, so we'll call this a day. Comment, like, subscribe, and again, I'm not going to change a whole lot on this. I'm going to because I want to keep it real. The only thing is, I had one point where I had a problem with the setting, trying to remove a problem, and it took about 3 minutes to get that set up and removed because it was getting on my nerves. And I was like, okay, where is it here? And it turned out to be, it was in the ADSR control. I just had to notch that back, actually. So there you go. That gives you some ideas how to get up and running with the 2600, which is what the whole series is about. All right, comment, like, and subscribe. We'll see you next time.